Everyone, this is Lexi, and for today's commander, we're going to be looking at Glissa, Herald of Predation. So it is a 5 mana Gruul commander, not Gruul, sorry, Golgari commander that says at the beginning of your turn, you get to choose one. You either incubate twice, so incubate two twice. So this allows us to generate incubate tokens, which we can then pay 2 mana to transfer them into a Phyrexian artifact creature during combat, at the beginning of combat, or we can transform all incubator tokens or Phyrexians control gain first strike and death touch until the end of the turn. So this deck is really cool because we do one or two things. We either kill our opponents with poison damage, or we just generate a ton of tokens and go crazy with them, or we can force our opponents to block poorly because these creatures are going to have first strike and death touch, so they might not want to block with their creatures because they don't want to lose them, and so on and so forth. So we're playing a battle called Invasion of Zendikar, that when it ETBs, it ramps us 2 lands into the battlefield tap, and then if we destroy it, we gain a Vigilance Haste creature that can tap for 1 mana of any color. Then we play Planeswalkers like Nissa and Vraska. Nissa is going to generate us tokens based on the number of lands we control, and then Vraska is going to allow us to either draw a card and proliferate, or we can minus it to get rid of something. As far as creatures, we're playing Ramp, and we're playing a lot of creatures that proliferate. For Ramp, we have Landwar Elves and Jahiri, Friend of the Forest. We also have Kami of the Whispered Hope, and then we have Kodama, which allows us to get lands if we deal combat damage with a modified creature, and then we can look and put those lands onto the battlefield tapped. We play cards like Mirkwood Bats, which allows us to drain our opponent every time we create or sacrifice a token. And then we have cards like Peregrine Took, that if a token will be created, you create a food token as well. And then if we need to, we can sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card. And then we have creature like Finn the Fangbearer that says whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, they get 2 poison counters, which works well with our commander. So if we do choose to give our creatures first strike and Death Touch, if we connect with the Death Touch creatures, we're going to trigger Finn and get a bunch of poison counters on our opponents. We also play cards like Whining Constrictor, which allows us to put an additional counter on permanent we control. And if it also says if you get 1 or more counters, you get twice that many counters per +1 instead. We play Defiler of Vigor, which allows us to pay 1 less green for Phyrexian mana, and then whenever we cast a green permanent spell, you put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. We have stuff like Bloated Contaminator, that if it connects, we get to proliferate. And we also have Glissa Sunslayer with first strike and death touch, so it's a very good blocker for us. And also if it deals combat damage, we can choose 1, we draw a card and lose a life. We can destroy an enchantment, or we can remove up to 3 counters from a target permanent. As far as sorceries, we're going to be playing Cultivate to help ramp us, Feed the Swarm to destroy a creature or an enchantment, Glistening Dawn to incubate twice, where X is the number of lands we control, Harmonize for card draw, Infectious Inquiry to draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, and each opponent gets a poison counter. Another ramp card in Kodama's Reach, Nice Whisper to draw, Rampant Growth to ramp, obviously, Read the Bones to draw, Sign in Blood to draw, and then Unnatural Restoration to return a target permanent from our graveyard to our hand, and then we proliferate. For instance, we're going to be playing Corrupted Conviction to draw us cards, Dark Ritual to ramp, Deadly Dispute to draw cards and create treasures, Herald to get lands, Infectious Bite to get rid of a creature, Infernal Grasp to destroy a creature, Village Rites to draw cards, and Vraska's Fall to force each opponent to sacrifice a creature, and then they get a poison counter. As far as artifacts, we're going to be playing Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, Golgari Signet, Lightning Greaves for protection, Ozolith to double up on counters. So if we put a counter on something, we get another counter as well. And then we can pay 2 mana to put a counter onto our artifact or creature, only activate it as a sorcery, and then we will also get another counter from it itself. Or if we need to, we can cycle it away for 2. We play Phyrexian Atlas as a mana rock. And then whenever it becomes tapped, each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters will lose a life. Soul Ring for ramp, and Talisman of Resilience. For enchantments, we're going to be playing Blighted Burgeon, which allows us to enchant a land. It incubates 2, and then whenever that land is tapped for mana, its controller adds additional mana of any color. We play Death Reap Ritual to help us draw cards. So the cool thing about it says at the beginning of each end step, so if an opponent's creatures die, we draw a card. Garruk Uprising to draw cards. Gift of Completion, just to incubate and allow us to surveil if a Phyrexian dies. Phyrexian Arena to get some extra card draw. And Tangle Skyline to help us gain 5 life and incubate 5. And then Phyrexians you control have reach. As far as lands go, it's very simple. I don't think we have any utility lands except for Restless Cottage, which is cool because we can pay 4 mana in Golgari colors to make a 4/4 green horror, and then when it attacks, we create a food token, and we also exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. So that is the deck in a nutshell. As you can see, we curve out at 3 mana, and this deck is going to cost you $167. So I hope you like this budget deck tech on Glissa, and I hope you have a good night, and please subscribe to my channel on YouTube and or on TikTok, and I'll be very grateful. Have a good night.